Shalom. I want to begin a lesson by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops at Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth through the spirit and the power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace and salutations to the brothers out there pushing this truth, the 100% truth out there on the highways and the byways, the Akim, as well as you three sisters out there listening and learning. The Akwak to you also I say Shalom. It is your brother, Kratazak Bar, back with another lesson through the Spirit. And Lord willing, in peace and sincerity. Just wanted to come to y'all with something quick and Lord willing, edifying. Seen some news pop up on my feed earlier today. You know, in the midst of more important things going on in the world, nonetheless, just hitting back on judgment once again that took place, that we found out about today. That former NFL running back Chris Johnson, former NFL running back for the Tennessee Titans, was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And the dude is only 39 years old, you know. And at the end of the day, man, it's judgment from the Lord. Of course, like anybody that's in that condition, you know, it's kind of messed up, but clearly in the Lord's eyes it's not messed up, and the Lord did it for a reason. So who are we to say that the Lord is not justified for bringing forth judgment upon this man? Because no one knows what he may have did in his past life or what he may have did on this side. You know, he was a star athlete, so it couldn't have been anything close to righteousness, you know, when it comes to being an entertainer or being famous in this society in Babylon the Great, because all it does is breed wickedness. But nonetheless, though, it kind of was crazy to see him in this condition. And I'm just gonna play a few clips that ESPN and Sports Center had posted about it. And you know, I just thought to do a lesson on it because it just shows you, number one, it just puts fear in your heart to know that it doesn't matter who the hell you think you are. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai can put forward judgment on you, and in the snap of a finger, your life can be completely changed. You know, it doesn't matter who you think you are, or whatever, man. You know, at the end of the day, the Lord has complete and utter rule over the earth and the things that are under the sun. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this real quick, man. And as always, Lord willing, it's edifying to those out there listening and watching. So, like I said, man, he doesn't even look like himself. And I thought this was a fake image until he actually started talking. You know, this kind of ties into the MOTB as well, because once you see the way that he's communicating, you'll see why I said that. But it says former NFL star Chris Johnson reveals ALS diagnosis at 39. Now, the first thing, the obvious thing is, number one, you're Israelite. There's no doubt about that. And you have long hair like a woman, you know, and that's first and foremost a shame unto a man to have long hair like that. So that would just be the first thing I say as far as him going off. Damn, nigga flying. It's locking. I'm in transit right now. But nonetheless, that would be the first thing I'll point out at as far as him going off and whatnot. Because it's a shame unto a man to have long hair like a woman. But nonetheless, though, that's not the point of concern. So it says, I can't even hold a cup if I try. And that's despite being diagnosed relatively early and doing everything we can. That's why early detection, more research, and better treatments are so important. And I just want to say this, man, when he starts talking about it and whatnot, talking about trying to get a cure and stuff, we're in Babylon the Great, bro. The medical field, they're not there to try and cure diseases, because if they cured any diseases, then they would stop making money, right? That's why they give you treatment, you know, because if they're not giving you treatment, then how the hell are they going to make money? Everything is based on capital in this society, right? So he's not going to get cured of this. And best believe either they have a cure for it or someone else out there has a cure for it. and it's just not gonna come to light. It said, but I was looking at this like, and the fact that he lost so much damn weight too. That's why he doesn't look like himself. But it says, I want people to know that I'm still me. ALS has changed what my body can do, but I still dream. I still love my family. You know, and as the scriptures read, I'm not gonna go to it right now because I don't want this thing to go off. I'm just gonna go ahead and play it and then pull out some precepts, Lord willing. And his wife is talking also like this is him. Honestly, I don't know if you ever fully process an ALS diagnosis. At first, you're in shock. Then you realize you have two choices. You can give up or you can fight. I chose to fight. And, you know, it also speaks about in the scriptures as well, talks about, you know, Lord doing things worse to people. You know what I'm saying? The Lord doing things worse to people, you know, putting you in a condition that's worse than death. You know, because the Lord could easily put him to sleep. But instead, he's tormenting his body, and the nigga is pretty much a vegetable, you know? And you have to live in that condition. It says, his wife said, I thought because of football and, you know, his career, that it had to be something like a pinched nerve, but never ALS. So she didn't think it was going to be as serious as that, pretty much.
News today.
So, like, I want to say fair use under the Copyright Act of 1976. I'm not making this video for any type of monetary gain. This is just for educational and edification purposes only. So, YouTube, please do not strike this video down.
You've chosen to share some personal news today, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to share it. What would you like for people to know?
First, I want people to know that I'm still me. ALS has changed what my body can do, but it hasn't changed who I am.
In 2025, at the age of 39, Johnson was diagnosed with ALS, the disease progressing so rapidly that he now uses his eyes to trigger a speech-generating device to speak. Why do you want to share this now?
Because if sharing my story helps even one person get diagnosed sooner, inspires more research, or gives another family hope, then it's worth it.
You've chosen to share some personal news today, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to share it. What would you like for people to know?
First, I want people to know that I'm still me. ALS.
Right? The Lord have put him in a condition of where this nigga can only communicate with his eyes. You know, by moving his eyes that's connected to a screen. And that's why I said, you know, this could go into the MOTB as well, because it's as easy as, you know what I'm saying, them saying, and through the Neuralink, we will be able to fully heal your body if we put this brain C-hip in your head, you know? And that's what the scriptures talk about this beast doing miracles, you know? But yeah, man, he's pretty much a vegetable, bro. And of course, it's sad to see him in this state because he's somebody that, you know, people such as myself looked at as a good football player. But at the end of the day, man, the Lord is not a respecter of persons, bro. You know, he doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care what type of status you have in this world, you know. And that just is very humbling because you got to remember, man, you're not shit without Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. You're really not. And our positions are pretty much pointless, you know, without the Lord, of course. You know, we're doing the Lord's work and we're doing the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, but without him, we would just be another 2/3 nigga in the world. So just never take this truth for granted, because you could be in a situation like that, bro. You know, the Lord could just turn your lights off like that, and he didn't even turn his lights off. He turned his lights off and he's still conscious. That's scary as hell. This nigga is sitting in a chair and he can't even speak. He can't move. He can't communicate. You know? He can't do anything. He's a vegetable, bro. That shit is scary as hell. And when you really know, holy shit. Shalakia. That nigga almost just ran into an 18-wheeler. When you truly know the scriptures and not even know the scriptures, but really just had a fear of Yahweh Shema Shah. It's scary to know what the Lord can do. Because the average Christian will look at this and think it's the devil. And that's far from the truth. Now, I don't want to play this whole thing because I don't want them to try and copyright my shit. But if you go on SportsCenter or ESPN, or even Good Morning America, they talking about it all over the media, man. You know, I'm not gonna play all of these clips because it's, as you can see, it's like at least 5 other clips I could play. You know, but I don't want to do that just for the sake of them trying to take this video down. Nonetheless, though, you already know where I'm going, bro. Because, like I said, it's scary as hell, and it just puts you in a place of humbleness, you know. Because you think Deuteronomy 32 and 39, it says, "See now that I am He, and there is no God with me." I was just talking about that in Psalm 96. Was I not in my last lesson, right? It says, let me get off this shoulder. "I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand." And you know, if you go to Hebrews 10 and 31, it says, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power," which is Yahweh the Most High Power, Yahweh Shema Shah, right? It's a fearful thing to fall into His hands because you don't want to be in the Lord's trick bag. You don't. It's a fearful thing. It's very scary. It's the worst thing. It's the worst position you could ever be in. And I'm speaking from experience, right? You don't want to fuck with the Lord. You don't want to cross Yahweh Shema Shah. He could ruin. Hey, man. Hey, brothers know. So that's for all these people out here who may come across this video. It's better to be on the Lord's good side than on the Lord's bad side. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I wet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and will reward them that hate me, right? And who are the ones that hate him? The ones who don't keep his laws, statutes, and commandments or do his will. You know what I'm saying? Who don't follow his instruction, right? Proverbs 27 and verse 1 says, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring." You know, staying in a humble state, bro. You cannot. You don't know what can happen today. A lot can happen in a day, so there's nothing guaranteed. You know, let another man praise thee, and not thy own mouth; a stranger, and not thy own lips. Right. We can go to verse 20, chapter 28, right here. Proverbs. Proverbs 28 and verse 1, it says, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. For the transgression of a land, many are the princes thereof. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged." And it says, "A poor man that oppresseth the poor is like a weeping rain, which leaveth no food." And here's my point. "They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. Evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek Yahweh understand all things." Right? So these people aren't going to understand the fact that the Lord is the one who's causing these ailments, you know, this affliction to happen to Chris Johnson, you know. They thinking it's the spiritual demon Satan. who's doing these things. But as we clearly just read, the Lord is the one who wounds and who heals, right? Who kills and who makes alive, right? So let me see if I can find this. Go ahead. You clearly want it more than me, bro. Like, let me see if I can find it. I think it's in the Apocrypha. I believe it's in the Apocrypha. I could be wrong. 2nd Ezra 9. I'm thinking of Zephaniah 3 and 5, but well, Zephaniah 3 and 6 rather. Zephaniah 3 and 5. Zephaniah 3 and 5, the just Yahweh is in the midst thereof, he will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame, right? So, clearly an unjust man will not regard the Lord, you know, and the wickedness that he does. You know what I'm saying? Jake just likes to live it up. And everybody living it up is saying, everybody saying living it up. Right? Jake just likes to party and have a good time, so they're not concerned or thinking about the Lord when they're doing wickedness or the things that they do, you know. You know, they're just thinking about in the moment. They just living in the moment. Just live in the moment, man. You know, because clearly that shit don't matter to them. Their spiritual receipt, so to speak, doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? They just want to live in the now because they believe that they have that YOLO spirit, man. You know? Let me get that. Respect. Acts 10 and 34 says, Then Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth, I perceive that the Most High Power is no respecter of persons, but in every nation, he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. Right? So if you don't fear the Lord, then what are you then? You're against the Lord, man. You know? If you don't fear the Lord, you're not going to have no wisdom. You're not going to have no knowledge. You're not going to have no understanding. You're just going to be living in wickedness. Right? First Corinthians 11 and verse 14. Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Right? It's a shame unto a man to have long hair. And I know this nigga's not a Nazarite, because those are the only, really the only men in the Bible who had long hair, right? But I'm not gonna get too much into that, because I don't know everything. But I know this nigga's not no damn Nazarite. So That being said, I made it to my destination safely. Wadi Halbah Shimei Shah. Lord willing, the lesson was edifying to those that are listening and watching. I'm going to close it off there by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shimei Shah by Hashem Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone, once again, who've taught me his truth through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Shimei Shah. And until next time, I say Shalom, Israel, Shalom. And as always, one day close to the kingdom, man. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Shalom, Israel, Shalom.